Okay, thank you. So today I would like to talk to you about big social data, and more importantly, how you can get from that big social data, how you can transform it into smart data. First of all, what do we mean with big social data? So to give you an example of what we mean with big social data, we can ask ourselves the question, how many tweets there are every single minute? So we know for sure now that we have about 100,000 tweets every single minute. There are over 650,000 Facebook shares every single minute. Every minute there are about 48 hours of new video uploaded to YouTube and 28,000 new blog posts on Tumblr. So this is what we mean with big social data. To give you another example of what we mean with big social data, I would like to demonstrate to you the Twitter Firehose. Maybe some of you are familiar with the Twitter Firehose. Actually, the Twitter Firehose gives you access to the public tweets in real time. For example, the company DataSift is actually giving you access to the Twitter Firehose. And this is actually an example of the Twitter Firehose for McDonald's. So you can actually see the new tweets as they appear on Twitter for McDonald's in real time. So depending on when you look, of course, you see many tweets popping up the screen. So as you can see, we have an amazing amount of tweets here. And probably most of you market researchers are thinking, wow, what a great amount of data we can analyze. This is great. Unfortunately, this is not really the case. This is because most big data is actually not relevant and is actually full of noise. The basic reason why the social data is not so great at first is because it's organic data. Social media data are organic because social conversations take place naturally without any analysis in mind. The social media data are as such a byproduct of social media platforms. This is really different from what we know as design data, such as survey data, that is created with the aim of gaining specific insights. As a result, design data is much richer than social data. So the question is, how do we get from big social data to smart social data? This is actually the topic of today's presentation, and I would like to give you 5 steps to transform big social data into smart social data. The first step is actually to clearly define your business objective and the related business questions. This might seem a little bit obvious, but it's still very important, even if you look into social media data. So, depending on the type of business question you have, you will need social media listening or social media monitoring. Business questions such as, what is my brand reputation and market position? Which consumer segments are there? And how much buzz did my media campaign generate can be answered using social media listening. Social media listening actually analyzes a collection of social conversations retrospectively, so not in real time. This is quite different from what we call social media monitoring. So when you have a business question that actually requires you to react in real time, such as detecting a crisis, detecting important service complaints or unexpected product malfunctions, these kind of business questions would require social media monitoring. Social media monitoring is actually monitoring the conversations in real time, allowing you to respond in real time. So these business questions actually could make use of the Twitter Firehose I have demonstrated earlier. A second very important step, and it's something Finn Raven actually referred to in the panel discussion, is actually the selection of the relevant data out of that big social data. Because you might remember that I said that social data is organic data, so most of the social data will actually not be relevant to solving your business question. Now, in order to select the relevant social data, you will need to know whose conversations you need to listen to or monitor to. You will need to know on which social media platforms the social conversations should be collected from. You will also need to find out which of the social conversations are actually relevant to your business case. And lastly, you will need to know how long you need to listen or monitor to the social conversations. I will now discuss each of those four topics. First of all, how do you define whose conversations are actually relevant to solve your business question? Typically, this would follow from your business problem. So let me give you an example. Vision Critical actually did a research using Facebook conversations, and they wanted to track the success of the new iPhone 5 by looking into the content of Facebook conversations on the iPhone 5. What they noticed actually is that people who actually wanted the iPhone 5, as you can see over here, these people tended to be more positive about the different features of the iPhone 5. So this is an example here for an evaluation of the battery of the new iPhone 5, and you can see that 53% of those who want an iPhone 5 are actually positive about the battery of the iPhone 5, whereas if you look in the total population of all people having conversations on the iPhone 5, only 27% of those people are actually positive about the battery of the new iPhone 5. So to come back to our question, whose conversations are actually relevant, who should we listen to? In the case of Vision Critical and iPhone 5, we should listen to those people that are actually wanting an iPhone 5. Secondly, once you know who you should listen to, you need to find out on which social media platforms they are actually engaging with. So, for example, that you want to track the Volvo brand reputation, and you know that the majority of the Volvo buyers are actually aged between 25 and 54 years old, then you actually need to find out for those 25 to 54 years old on which social media platforms they are active. If they are very active on Facebook and Twitter, then you need to include those two social media platforms into your analysis. The third step actually is to define also the relevant conversations. So given that you know who you should listen to and from which social media platforms you actually need to scrape the conversations, you still will have many conversations that are not relevant to solving your business problems. To give you an illustration of what I mean with selecting the relevant conversations, we did a research in collaboration with Microsoft, where the idea was actually to track how B2B customers are experiencing the adoption of new software. And we wanted to track that experience just by monitoring actually the social conversations related to the software package. But in order to select only those conversations that were relevant to the new software adoption, we actually first had to define a kind of dictionary that describes the typical actions that B2B customers would do or take during a new software adoption, such as collecting relevant product information, finding out what is the implication for their contract setting, and so on. So in our case, we actually used focus groups to define a dictionary of typical actions, and using that dictionary of typical actions, we scored all the social conversations, so we could actually pinpoint which conversations related to the software adoption. Once you have defined the relevant people, the relevant channels, and the relevant conversations, you still need to find out for how long you should listen to or monitor to the social conversations. Sometimes the relevant time window actually follows very naturally from your business case. If I go back to the example I gave you for Microsoft, for new product launches, typically the time window 90 days before the launch and 90 days after the launch are very critical. So in our case, we used 180 days as the relevant social media monitoring time window. In other cases, you will not have a natural time window, and you might define the relevant time window as a time window offering you enough conversations to solve your business question. This brings me to the third step. So once you have an idea whether you need social media monitoring or listening, and once you have selected the relevant data, you will still need to clean and pre-process the relevant data. After all, social media data are very unstructured and extremely messy. So the garbage in, garbage out principle rules very strongly for social media data. Therefore, I would strongly recommend that you spend a lot of time cleaning and pre-processing your relevant social data. It's important when you clean the data that you still keep your business objective in mind. So, for example, if you want to detect a crisis, it would not be wise to remove emoticons or markup. Also, it's to improve the performance of your model and of the cleaning and pre-processing. You might want to have context-specific cleaning, which is actually offered, for instance, by Convey API. The third step actually to go from big social data to smart social data is to analyze your data, the relevant data, with your objective in mind. Depending on your business objective, you will either need to tally the number of conversations per topic, per country, and so on. But then to solve other types of business questions, you might need more advanced social media analysis. And this is what I would like to talk about right now. So social media analysis actually involves a whole spectrum of analysis, going from influencer analysis, who is influential, to topic analysis, what are they talking about, to sentiment analysis, in what way are they talking about a certain topic. When I consider the type of sentiment analysis that is available today, I think in many cases the three levels that are available, being neutral, negative, or positive, are often not granular enough to solve the business question you have. So I would like to argue to use a finer grained sentiment scale if necessary. So, for example, if you want to detect a crisis, you might need more variations or more gradations of negative sentiments. In our case, when we monitored the response to new software for Microsoft, we actually used up to 7 levels of sentiment, of which 4 were negative and 2 were positive. What is also very important when you do sentiment analysis is that you need to handle the class imbalance problem. Let me give you an example. Suppose that you do a sentiment analysis and you have an accuracy of 80%. This means that you correctly predict the sentiment for 80% of your conversations. But what does this really mean? Often it actually means that you are really good in predicting the conversations being neutral in sentiment, as this is the majority class. However, from a business perspective, you probably would like to have a model that is very good in predicting the smaller classes, such as the negative and positive conversations. So how do we handle this class imbalance problem? There are a few things you can do while estimating the sentiment. So during the sentiment model estimation, you can actually use undersampling of the majority class, and you could also use cost-sensitive learning. Once you have estimated your sentiment model, it's very important that you evaluate that sentiment analysis model not in terms of accuracy, but that you actually evaluate it in terms of recall, precision, and F1 measures. This brings me to the final step, to go from big social data to smart social data, it is very important that you validate your results based on social media data, also using other available data. So this is an example again from our Microsoft case we've done. So this is actually showing you a graph of our experience index that we have created using only social media conversations for 2 software packages. So we have the green line is actually for a software package Denali. As you can see, after launch period, there's actually an increase in the experience. So people actually reacted quite positively towards the software Denali introduction. On the other hand, when we look at the experience index based on the social media data for Office 365, we see that it's quite bumpy and actually very negative after 30 days after the product launch. This evolution of the software adoption index was actually totally in line with what Microsoft knew about the trends of the launch of these 2 software packages. So in a nutshell, to convert big social data into smart social data, you need to follow a 5-step process. In the first step, you need to clearly define your business objective, so you know whether you need to use social media listening or social media monitoring. In the second step, you identify the relevant social media data, so who should you listen to, on which platforms, how long, that kind of stuff. In the third step, once you have your relevant social media data, you will need to clean it and pre-process it, and maybe you will have to make it context specific. In the fourth step, you will need to analyze your data again with your business objective in mind, and this relates to the use of more granular sentiment scales. And in the fifth step, it is very important that you actually validate your social media results with whatever other data you have available. So this is the way how you go actually from big social data to smart social data. Thank you.